Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojó ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to Theoryforge Chronicles. I am Phantom X, of course, joined by Diggs, Legendary Neurotoxin, and Sog. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
All right. We are set for another show, which we still can't get into DSS yet. So that's why the title, as I said, the last two shows will continue to lengthen until we actually can talk about something interesting. But we have a post. Actually, I think it's somewhat relevant because it's probably directly a product of DSS that was made just a little bit ago by Vye. I'll put up the link. I don't know. Did you guys read that? I linked it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of explaining the process of finding the fun in games, and I guess their philosophy or whatever with development. So we do have something to talk about.
I did not get a chance to look at it. So, what did it say?
A whole lot.
They shared quite a few videos about successful game developers talking about their theories and their methodologies, things like that. And then later on, kind of talked through how that applies to Chronicles of Illyria. Specifically mentioning like how they changed their thought, how they've had to change their design because despite having this grand scheme, that when it came to implementing it, they realized that they needed to change their approach. One of the examples was talking about how they changed crafting like shortly after Snipe Hunter joined the team, right? They had that one of his first big posts was the crafting redo or crafting rethought, I believe, and how they went away from having this disjointed mini game idea to having their current plan for the hands-on crafting, and then talked in terms of world development where. And this kind of relates to the state of domain selection development, where the initial plans and a lot of the write-ups and a lot of the information that we have about the world come from really old design journals and information from years ago now that just hasn't been updated. And in that time, they've changed from this top down, we know where everything is and we're going to fill it and we're going to make sure everything works according to that plan, to generating the world and the settlements and everything from the bottom up so that it all fits into this living, breathing world that has a little bit of history to it and everything. And well, that's the background of the post, so I'll let somebody else start off with the opinions about it.
It's definitely one of those things that people who've worked on games and software projects and stuff like that have a strong emphasis on usability and either fun or functionality or whatever for the end user. Have all been through these steps, and it's a painful process. It's something that I've been meaning to mention, and actually, I'm glad this post came up because it's something I was going to talk about anyway. That this isn't really a project where we can go and look at white papers from Raf Koster and other veterans about how meows had been done in the past, and things along. Damn it, Discord. Things along those lines, because quite honestly, we don't have anything like that. This is new invention. This is all new. So it's the double whammy that it's reality versus expectation of what they thought fun was going to be, what they thought the correct implementation was going to be, versus as they moved forward, what it actually ends up, looking like and ends up being. But beyond that, it's, the fact that not only is this being invented, originally here, they don't have a lot of stuff to reference. That's also kind of been, and on a side tangent, one of the reasons why it's been hard to get investors for the game, because it's an unproven sort of thing. So everything that they're doing, it's basically being, bankrolled by the community and by whatever other, income sources they're able to figure out. It's not an easy sort of thing that's going on, and to try to do all of what's going on, make it fun, invent a new system all at the same time, all on a limited budget, that's a lot to have to manage. So it's I say all this and all this stuff up even regardless of this post having come up, because I look at how much people have been really, really throwing the salt and shade at the developers for how long the process has taken, and where things have gone and what's been going on with it, and information that might have seemed different on the surface than what it is in reality, and all that sort of stuff. It's one of those things where it comes with it's one of the painful parts of the transparent process, that the more information you give people early on and more of what you think you're going to be doing and what you think the things are based on models you've created, etc., the more people buy into that information, and then when it changes, they feel betrayed, when in reality, it should be the opposite. You should be happy when they make these changes. Game's not out yet. Your inventory didn't just change. Your claim didn't just change. Nothing changed in the actual game, because there ain't no actual game. So for my purposes, I'm happier that they be doing all of these changes now, that they get it all in now, no matter how much longer it's going to take, that they're still taking our feedback and they're still working through the process as best as they can based on that. But that it's not, it's not something that that's easy to do, that they're doing, and it's not something that we should expect to have ever been done right the first time. So when they do it wrong and they have to fix it, that's great. That's them doing what they need to do, and it's going to be a better product for it. So I feel like people maybe just need to back off and chill a little bit, and respect that this is part of the process.
Well, I think that that goes both ways. That this is domain selection. I mention all the time as like, the coolest thing to happen in MMO history in the last 20 years, right? Like, it's this unique, special thing, and it's like right there. It's so close, right? And for people that are involved, and a lot of people that are able to make selections, the way that it turns out changes the way that they're planning on playing. And now it's so close, so it's like, as an analogy, when I first started traveling with my wife, I'm a pick a place to go, set a base, kind of figure out what's going on there, and make sure that I'm real flexible and I can, really, immerse myself in the area. And for her, it was, well, what are we doing Monday morning? What are we doing Monday afternoon? Where are we going to dinner that night? And like planning out the whole week, like, we're going here, we're going to hit these things, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I think that a lot of people are approaching domain settlement selection that way. And when changes that what feels this late in the process are coming in, it's like, but I was, I was having dinner at that restaurant that night, where.
That's the whole reason why we went on the trip.
Yeah, the whole reason. I mean, it's possible that like people have that preference. People live that. I don't really live that way, but it's not uncommon for people to like to to be very rigid with their plans and to already know how they're going to have fun. So
Yeah, literally, my trip was ruined. It's no longer my trip. The whole trip has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
I might not have even paid to go on this trip if I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I liken that to creating, you're going to join a D&D campaign. So you create this character with this big, rich backstory and all this cool stuff. And the game starts and, all right, wizards cast a spell on you. You all have amnesia. You have no equipment anymore. And start game. Oh, it's like, you put all that planning in, all that thought. You didn't even know what you were walking into.
So many of these people probably
that
say
doesn't sound like fun, though. Sorry.
Oh no, that sounds like a great campaign to me. Like someone that's going to do that's got a hell of a story in mind.
So many people talk about the journey. It's the journey. So many. Probably the same people. Oh, it's not about end game. It's the journey to the. How fun is the journey if you know everything? That's what I don't understand. Is
it can be
if you already know
it's working the way you think it's supposed to.
Well, then
work.
it just becomes a job.
No,
people go on cruises all the time. Because that's the perfect thing. Like I know that on Monday they're having this dance event. I know on Tuesday there's that.
There's a boat. There's people. There are events. You do not know what's happening exactly in those events. You don't know exactly what you're going to experience.
It's
like
pretty
close.
Being an actor in a play. I know the script. I know and I can do it every night and still have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I know what everybody's going to say. I know where everybody's going to move, and it's still fun.
Yeah, I don't see this two as the same. But anyways,
how is it not? It's a story, right? The story is going as I wanted the story to go.
A multiplayer, evolving online world. It's not repetitive over and over and over.
Well,
see, that's actually the other thing that I was thinking that now comes to mind too, is that everyone is so expecting things to be a very certain way. It's supposed to evolve. So, a month later, are they going to complain because something's different?
Yes, they will. So that's the short answer. But I think my perspective is that we shouldn't be looking down on people at all for having this idea of thinking of planning out their fun. People do that all the time.
Yeah.
People, that's good. And it could be, if that's how you're used to, having fun, it's planned activities that kind of go the same way, that right now something's going to happen. And we have a lot of ideas about what that was supposed to be from 2 or 3 years ago now. And that's changing, and which is cool from my perspective. Okay, they're figuring things out. Some of these problems they could not have anticipated until whenever, closer to the time, until they started trying to implement the system. But for other people, I planned I spent my vacation money on being able to pick in domain and settlement selection 3 years ago, and this is my vacation for 2019, and now my vacation is possibly going to be in September when it was scheduled to be in May. Or I don't want to be the negative here, but we have to understand that people aren't crazy for being upset.
I think there's lots of different mindsets, lots of different play styles, and we have no clue whether or not our play styles are actually going to be supported and satisfactory with this new style, genre of game. We don't know what the meow is actually going to feel like. I think one of the dangers, one of the concerns, one of the problems about the change is that people have spent thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. And that's that's the part that makes the change part problematic, that this wasn't what I expected, and I invested thousands of dollars in it already. And then what happens if I have invested those thousands of dollars and I end up not liking it? Now, for me, I'm investing money because I like the systems, the concepts of the systems that are being worked on. I like the concept of a dynamic, evolving world that does not have an end game, meaning the story doesn't stop, the story keeps going. And I want to help support monetarily developers working on those systems. Even if these current games become vaporware, I want the devs to have had the experience of working on them, so it's quicker and easier for them to do something similar going forward, so that even if these don't happen to be the games that we actually play 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, it's easier for developers to develop those games. But what I'm glad to hear is that they are thinking about the fun, because of course that's been my question since we started this podcast, is where's the fun? And I understand the complexity of these systems, and while it sounds kind of cool, it doesn't necessarily sound like it translates into fun. I'm not sure. And I don't think I got that answer from what I skimmed through in this article from, is it Vye? How do you pronounce her name?
Vye.
Yeah. I don't know that she answered that question of what finding the fun will mean for Chronicles of Illyria, but it's good to know that they are thinking about that and maybe making some tweaks to systems to hopefully make it more fun for people, whatever that would happen.
And towards the end of our ongoing EverQuest Next show, none of us could see where, based on the information we had, none of us could see where the fun was going to be coming from towards the end of that. And as a result, because they hadn't been considering that in the right way throughout these stages of the project, they just had to can it. They were too far behind. They put in too much work, not towards finding and making something fun. And it's nice to hear that. Look something up in Discord real quick.
I feel like we know what could have been fun. A lot of people knew what could have been fun, probably even the developers, but actually being able to implement it both from a conceptual perspective to being able to design and implement that's where I think there are a lot of the hiccups, especially on the technical side. It sounds like working with the Forge Light engine and everything else going on with it, and then the voxels and all of that was just absolute hell.
Yeah, and that's
sound like fun.
That's what I was saying a couple of days ago when we were talking about polish and them working on polishing that testing environment. Landmark was supposed to really be a testing stage that's leading into EverQuest Next, but it went up 24/7, and then they decided to polish it so that it's as polished as possible since it's up 24/7, rather than saying, the AI for these mobs aren't really interacting with the voxels intelligently. We need to take some time and really work on that. They probably should have shut it down for months to work on that, rather than try and keep it up 24/7 and fix everything so that it's playable 24/7, even while they're trying to fix stuff. Because then they've got everybody working on Landmark like it's a released game, even though it's really an alpha.
Right.
And they have no time to work on the game that they're supposed to be creating, which is EverQuest Next. So, I think they just have to make sure they don't get distracted if they do that at whatever point they release. I mean, I would love for them to release pre-Illyria, I think, because I like the way it looks. That's the other thing. So I think one of the issues that we have these last several years, maybe since 2013-14, is that we can get these games in a quasi-playable state where like our characters look great and it kind of feels great to move through the world, and that's awesome. So let us in.
Nope, prototype's still just a prototype.
It's ready to go. Let us in. Why aren't you letting us in? It looks great. We can see, like, look at the artwork we could see, or look at the stills that we can see from inside the game. Like, let us play. Why can't we play? We should be able to play.
You know, you can throw a skybox, some particle effects, a model that you slap together or whatever with some animations you got from Mixamo, and have something that looks like a character in a game world, but like that doesn't necessarily mean any of that's actually got any bearing on what's actually being made. That's one of the things is it's hard to know from something that kind of looks pretty and shows a bit of some of the tech how far ahead or behind they are on any specific part of it. It's just a limited demo that they're specifically showing you, likely an editor. Simple.
So we were talking about just a few minutes ago about not having a lot of details in that find the fun post regarding what they're looking for. At about 1 p.m. my time in Discord, Caspian posted some thoughts about what he wants out of domain and settlement selection to kind of towards that end. And what he said was, I want to see resources distributed around the map in an interesting way that encourages trade and conflict. I want to see as diverse a set of professions and settlement focuses as can be created in a single duchy to encourage more choice. I want to see a reasonable distribution of tribes across counties and settlements to encourage more variety where possible, to provide people with as many options as possible. I want to see counties of varying sizes to cater to people who want to take on more or less responsibility. I want to see counties, duchies that, when combined/merged, will help create a diverse and attractive set of domains and holdings. And I want to see a diverse range of sustainability across biomes and within biomes that allow people to pick their difficulty level during domain and settlement selection. So, I am echoing bad. It appears that the theme here is that he wants people to feel like domain and settlement selection gives them some agency, but within a world that breeds interaction, positive and negative interaction with other players. And I think that's their kind of the core here.
Which is in sort of direct conflict with, I don't have where you read that, but a lot of what you mentioned, unexpected and fighting over resources. But then later on, what was the comment on the release candidate? There was something, I'm trying to find the specific, basically that people couldn't plan. Where did he comment on that?
Oh, well, there was a whole long conversation today about people complaining that other people were able to plan ahead of time because they're part of the domain and settlement selection testing group, and that they're getting an unfair advantage going in.
The specific, he said, community sentiment is that they could not plan effectively without specific numbers, which sort of goes in kind of conflict with some of what you just said. Like that's kind of in direct conflict with some of their goals. Like the community is wanting specifics so they can right away, know exactly what they're going to do, have a very good idea of how they're going to do it. Yet they're trying to create an environment where, yes, you have some general ideas, But at the same time, we want you to have to compete. We want you to have all these different things going on. They just don't completely mesh very well.
Well, I think what happened is that they've realized that what Caspian posted today about what they want is the path towards the fun, and it's why they need to keep iterating and why they keep needing to make changes. And specifically, like, they were talking about the number of counties in a duchy and some things, like they wanted those numbers to be solid so that people could plan and building communities. And I think that it was a case of users not really knowing what they wanted, which is common in software development across the board. And when things are really nebulous and the development hasn't really started and people haven't really got their hands on it yet, you could say that we want to have these numbers so that we can plan around these numbers, but not fully thinking through, well, what does it mean if we make this a static number? How does that cascade through the whole system? And now, with the world being built from the bottom up, having a set number that has to be reached in any category, right? It's like, that's a parameter on world building now that is highly limiting. So we'll see if they change that at all. Another Caspian post today I want to bring up, someone mentioned in chat that they did not like Caspian's attitude sometimes. And I've heard that complaint, but today he did say something very, very good, and I think that we should highlight that. In talking about the Kickstarterversary that has been delayed, and rewards that will be coming from this promotion, Caspian said, we considered adding some comedy items to the store, like salt shakers, a toy hype train, etc. And he said, but we nixed it on account of it seeming tone deaf. Said, we understand people were frustrated with the long delay. We also understand people are frustrated by perceptions, and it didn't seem like the right time for a promo with a gag/novelty gifts. And he said, so we went the opposite direction. He said, I'm trying to give away as much cool free stuff at the start of Kickstarterversary as possible to show how much we care. And then I've even tried to make the promo items as awesome as they can possibly be. Later on, he qualifies and says, for specific people in specific roles, and with different packages, to try to find things that, it appears that will improve the fun of people that have bought in at different levels. And just that message is not the message that we've had a lot coming up to now, right? I think that it's really good to hear things like that they're aware of perceptions, they're aware of people being a little bit upset with delays, and really trying to, and they're owning that, right? Accepting that and working around it the best they can. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but I like hearing people say nice things sometimes.
We want to reward good behavior with positivity. Yes. We should always do that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded to me like you were going to say, instead of giving us fun novelty items, we're going to get Searing Plague too. But
oh, well, we did have that little shiny. Did you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
So
I missed the shiny.
Oh, there wasn't really a shiny, but Caspian posted a screenshot of Preliria playtesting.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
He's talking to a guy who stole medicine, and they're unsure if it's another outbreak of the Searing Plague or not.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that in terms of domain selection. Like, they're going to be plague lands, right? Did that...
So, what I was thinking when you were talking about numbers, over on over on Ashes of Creation, we've been talking about DPS meters a lot and combat trackers and why it's important to have numbers and be able to analyze the numbers. And so that's one camp, and the other camp is saying, kind of like I think what Phantom X has been going towards. I'd rather just have it feel like I'd like to be able to visually see how well my teammates are doing, and based on what they're doing, I support them, kind of like what we do in D&D. I don't need to know the raw numbers. I don't need to know, this person just, is what their total DPS or equivalent of the DPS. How much total damage did you do in this fight? Oh, you got the lowest amount of damage. You suck. We can do much better without you. I'd much rather be thinking, oh, they're using this ability, so I'm going to use that ability type of stuff. And that's kind of the way I'm feeling now about this issue with numbers for domain selection. I mean, okay, so I know how many types of biomes, but what do those biomes really feel like? I know how many professions, but what does it feel like to play that profession? I mean, I could think that I want to be a doctor and then find out being a doctor doesn't feel like fun, so I want to do something else. So then what I was thinking is it kind of would have been nice to actually be able to have a space, like have a map that we could go into and actually feel what the biomes look like. We could run around in there, and it might not be the ones that we actually play on for real, but we could at least get some kind of feeling of what a swamp is like, or what a even if it's just in Preliria. I mean, I guess we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have a feel of the mobs running around and all that stuff. But I keep thinking maybe I want to live in a swamp. That sounds like cool. I like the idea of living in a swamp, and then what kind of diseases, if I'm a dross, what kind of diseases are there? And since they don't affect me, what can I do with them? And then what happens when I leave and accidentally bring diseases with me? Because I didn't know they didn't affect me. That's the kind of stuff that I'm kind of interested in. That's the kind of conflict that I'd like to see happening. But I can't tell whether that's going to be fun or not just from numbers. I can't. I guess there are other people that love that stuff.
I think that a lot of people, because we've had so much time for groups to really come together and plan, and so people feel like part of their kingdom already, and they felt like part of their kingdom before the kings even selected. So now, and a lot of them treated at the kingdom level, treated picking as a min-maxing opportunity, not a we want to feel like we have, moderate to low survival difficulty. We want to feel like we have, good resources. We want to be in a position where we can at least defend ourselves, if not be aggressive on top of that. But then, because the kings picked, like pencil and paper picked before there were any interactive maps or anything based on these vague ideas, now thinking about domain selection and thinking about what makes a good release candidate or what doesn't make a good release candidate, a little bit is, how can a kingdom manipulate that and min-max how can they promote something that is beneficial for them? Where for me, I've got a pretty good idea of the play style I want, but I'm flexible. Like initially I thought that I wanted to be in Ashland because I like the people there, but I cannot be a Toresk mayor in Ashland. So okay, no, all right, well, Tropical Wetlands looks real nice in Preleria. Tidal Marsh seems pretty cool too. Those are Torresque areas, but and we know this from the previous maps that the tropical wetlands on West are in Riftwood, and the tidal marshes in Tyria or however they say it in that group. So when it comes down to time for me to pick a settlement, I'm going to pick the settlement that, for this idea that I have, seems to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I might not have fun with it, but I got 2 extra sparks. I could go play on a different server if I want. It wouldn't be the first time that I started a game playing the class or the role that I thought that I wanted to play, and very soon rolled an alt that just became my main because I was having more fun with it. I wouldn't expect Chronicles of Valyria to be any different.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so if we know the numbers of resources, what do we know the specific types of resources, and then how are those resources going to really work with what we think we want to do as a profession? It's just interesting that Caspian seems to be interested in all these numbers, and how many of this and how many of that. But for me, I'm thinking,
I don't know that it's about sums. It's about not just avoiding uniformity and avoiding. There's this big risk they have developing a world that, because it's not meant to be a static world, they can't build a homeostatic world, right? That, like previous games are like, everything's at a standstill. The good faction and the bad faction, or whatever you want to call it, they have their border, and it's been like that for as long as we know, and it's always going to be like that for this. If they build a fully mature homeostatic world where every individual settlement is fully self-sufficient and every duchy is fully self-sufficient, every kingdom is too, and they have no need to really cross this border, that's not what that's not what Chronicles of Valyria is. I'm gonna look for another quote real quick as that matters. So sorry.
The other thing that came to mind was we're talking about wanting a diverse tribal spread, and I mean, are these players really going to be interested in being diverse, and are they really going to have fun playing the cultures? I mean, in MMORPGs, 90% of the people don't do anything with their races. They just play them.
It'll affect fun, interesting sort of thing I've actually been thinking about a little bit. The idea that based on where people are at, where they start, what resources are available is going to partially dictate, what's going to be usable, what sort of recipes and stuff they'll be able to have initially, or what they'll be able to develop initially in those areas. And so I think that cultural style is going to be a combination of, the race you're playing combined with the materials that you have available to, develop and work with the stuff. So I think just by, whether you like it or not, some of that stuff is going to come through. That being said, I think the overarching actually, playing as the different races or whatever and actually role-playing that, I don't know.
I don't know that it matters, though, because the world is so large and it's populated by so many NPCs that you'll be swept along with the flow. So what injecting diversity into at least border areas, and ideally like having some settlements here and there that may have, you know, a population of a tribe that you may not have even expected there, that the NPCs and your offline player character are going to be behaving as that that tribe would usually behave. So the places that you visit and the things that you do and the interactions that you have will be a function of that. And it won't come down to, I mean, assuming things work out, it won't come down to, you know, we're just, you know, 4 guys playing the game and, you know, our avatars might look different. I just want mine to have the best ass, you know, or whatever it is. And then the world itself will be moving. And I think the offline player character part is really a kicker in this, that, you know, when you're not controlling your character, it's going to be in character all the time. And we're not necessarily going to...
Why are you over there?
We're not necessarily going to know if people are logged into their characters or not.
I think we'll know.
I'm guessing we will know.
But I'm thinking religion probably also be a key factor, because the gods will want your tribal characters to follow the tenets of the religion, and I'm assuming there will be consequences if they don't.
You also have a personal destiny too that is in a way, you know, at least presenting you with choices that take you down different paths. But I assume that they're relevant in character.
Relative to the tribal culture too, so that should push you. But yeah, I mean, it's again, we have to figure out how fun it will be. Again, I could be thinking that I want to work with certain types of resources. They might not be available in the region as I thought they were. It might turn out that what is available isn't fun for me as a player, and the result of that would be that I wouldn't play. Not, you know, we have to hope that the result is I roll a new character, I spark a new character, or move to a different region, or, you know, there's options for me to find the fun I'm looking for. I guess one of the things to get used to is that the character that we start with might not be our main, and even our main is not going to be available.
Even if you abandon your starting character, it's still going on without you.
Which I don't care about if I'm not playing the game.
Well, I think that it would be interesting to spark a bunch and, you know, come back to them and see what happened. Like I like that, you know, take the hand that you're dealt and make the most of it play style.
Okay, but you're cheating.
Why is that cheating?
Because, I mean, I don't know that I'm actually interested in these Chronicles of Illyria characters to play 25 different alts. But I might make 25 different alts just to see what they do without me. That's interesting.
It's not
to
cheating.
See.
It's just interesting.
It's just cheating because they're supposed to be enticing me to make alts that I would want to play. Now you're saying, oh,
you just want to make Sims.
I'm going to make
that's all.
alts that I want to watch, not that I want to play, that I want to watch.
Well, you're sparking into existing entities in the game anyway.
I know, but I'm saying that might make me make some alts.
Yeah, we should make lots of alts.
Well, again, it's supposed to be enticing me to make alts that I want to play, not alts that I want to watch.
Oh, well, I just want to go in and, you know, check and see, well, whoa, what has this guy been up to? Do I want to keep him on course, or do I want to Don't want
That's
to
what
throw
I'm
a wrench
saying.
in.
But or more like I want to be a deist, right? I start the characters off and then I see where they go and stop interfering. I just watch them.
That would be pretty cool if you could go into OPC mode and just have it running on your screen. Like, what does my character do when I'm not there? I'm just gonna watch him for a little bit.
Just character viewer mode. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I would enjoy
Yeah,
that.
wow, that's crazy. Because if we could do that, I would totally always have a window minimized, in the bottom right of my screen at work, so I could just glance down and
So to that extent, they could do discounted like group Spark Soul packages where you get like 5 sparks and souls, but you have to activate them all at once. So that way you can get them at a discount, sure, but you're going to be getting more of them than you can individually play. So somebody that just plays single characters isn't getting a discount, but alcoholics are able to get a bonus.
If you could just kind of go into like AFK mode where your OPC takes over, I would, just like I have Discord and forums and things running on one of these monitors around here, I would just have it going all day. I work right here. I would have it going all the time. If something interesting happens, I'll take a break from what I'm supposed to do and waste my time.
Well, and that's a kind of fascinating thing. Next time we have Snipe Hunter on, we should try and have him talk about this. But so the first thing you had me thinking of was how in Revival, one of the characters that I wanted to have was the town drunk, the town gossip, the town drunk that was highly skilled in gossiping. And it would be a lot of fun. I don't know that I necessarily want to play that character much at all in Chronicles of Illyria, but it would be cool to spark a town drunk gossip, watch what it does, what kind of gossiping it does without me, and then every, I don't know, even if it's just an hour a month or an hour every 3 months, jump in and start a bunch of rumors and tweak this, tweak that, and then get it going again and let it do its thing. But that could be the same thing for Harold Baker, right? Maybe I don't like micromanaging the baking, but maybe
so you just OPC that part and you only play the fun part in between.
Yeah, have them walk around, all the stuff that we were. Well, I play the detective part that we had in our Revival game, and then when it comes to the actual baking, I just let him do that on his own. That could be interesting if you don't actually enjoy the crafting.
I just had a wonderful idea. Because I plan on role-playing a absolutely terrible count. What if I can create some sort of OPC where I just let it play the count and do whatever it wants to do, and I actually have no direct control over it?
Well, there are going to be NPC counts all over the world, so that would not stand out as being special. You need to steer this guy.
Well, that actually, do we actually know how much control, like what we'll actually be able to do within the scripting? I guess we don't really know either. Like, will you be able to create some sort of response if someone talks to you? Can you somehow create a randomized sort of, how smart can you actually make your character?
I assume that it's at base as smart as an NPC is, and lives the same way that an NPC does. I don't think we have a lot of information about
because I would love to create
how we can manipulate that.
I would love to create some OPC where my count basically rolls the die. Somebody comes up and says, I want to buy something, and I just roll the die. And that's all I do. And just see where that ends up. How long until I'm kicked out?
I think there's a little problem here.
I come up and ask the count for a favor, and it says "fuck digs."
It could.
That's what I'm saying. That seems likely.
That could be a fun mini game.
Right. And you just ramp up asshole, like the asshole meter on the OPC, or you can slide it back down when you want to be kind and have them love you for a little, have your peons love you for a while so they don't totally oust you. I'm thinking, though, that has me wondering about like the types of laws that you would have in your county. Like maybe that's one of the things that you're putting into the OPC is making sure that your peons are obeying your laws. And
all prices are random. All trade must include the roll of a die and a second roll to see what percentage of that sale is taxed.
I mean, it could be fun. Like you could have people coming as a novelty just for the hell of it.
I think that right now we're having people obsessing about how much they can plan, but as things go, and I'm wondering now, is soul spying going to be a thing? Like, do I spark something so that I could just, get into, like, I'm calling it soul spying because I think it's a good term. We should actually use this term. That I'm sparking over there, just like in other games, people create a character of the other faction. But like, how much of your OPC's memory do you have access to? There are all kinds of neat things that could go into all of that.
Yeah, I think I'm wondering if one of the laws in Phantom X's county is not to be lawful. It's against the law to be lawful.
It could be. Actually, having an OPC script kind of deal out the laws would probably be more fair. Would be more fair than a human doing it, because it's basically a binary choice, right? You either violated the law or you didn't. So
you could do
it's more just.
Mad Lib style weekly tax where it enters a thing and what the tax percent is if you do or don't do it. Like there's a pants wearing tax. If you do transactions wearing pants, it costs 25%.
Hey, you don't worry about laws that you have to punish. You just set everything, like, depending on what they do, they get plus or minus to their tax roll.
It could be fun. It'd be like a casino for a county. Let's see. I could do this massive trade right now at 5% tax, or I could wait a week. We get a brand new random roll. It could be much less, and then I get so I wait, and then also, well, damn, it's 10% now.
It's tax-free week. Everybody trade.
So with EverQuest Next. We had this thing where the different servers are going to be different. Each server is going to be different. The stories will unfold differently, and there'll be different events. And sometimes the dragon will come down, and you'll have to defend your city and all this stuff. And I kept kind of hoping that we could have a health server where nobody does anything to protect their towns. Like they just let the dragons come in and demolish everything, and just see how fucked up the AI could make that server.
I mean, humans are going to do that.
No, because there's going to be people who are going to want to defend. I'm saying there's going to be people who just want to defend. On every server is going to have somebody who wants to defend a town, some town. But I'm saying I just wanted to see a server where the AI just goes mad. Nobody defends.
I mean, that's what's going to happen anyways. This is where I don't get the community. It's two things with regards to this post, kind of circling back. One, you are in love with an evolving online world, so why you're putting so much like this is how it has to be, just I don't understand. Two, you're going to hopefully have a successful game, so the core currently will hopefully be greatly outnumbered by new players once it starts. I mean, greatly outnumbered because I mean, how many? What do you think now? Sort of a good core estimate: 5,000, 6,000.
There are like 12,000 people in Discord or something.
Well, but when I say core, I mean people who are actually like very much daily involved. It's probably much smaller than that. So you're hoping, okay, we'll say 10,000 just as a liberal estimate. So you're hoping what, 10 times that at least for a successful game. So people are putting so much time into all this thought and planning. It's like nobody's thinking, okay, well, I'm making them have exactly 24. Whatever. Well, when all these other people come, what the hell's going to happen? I mean, nobody. Maybe they are thinking about it and they're just ignoring it. But
or everyone's planning on, trying to keep. Everyone's playing hard mode, right? Everybody wants. I'm going to have a successor. I'm going to be able to pass on a portion of what I learned to my children. My souls are going to get better. I'm going to continue progressing in this way while always serving my kingdom and my duchy, where I'm more into finding what I can do for fun and then finding something different I can do for fun.
Because Diggs, your request for a dragon, if this game is successful, that scenario will happen on every server anyways, just with human intervention.
Some people that have invested thousands of dollars for their cities, they're going to defend it.
And they're going to have maybe a few hundred of their core players that will be there to protect them versus several thousand players that are coming in just to destroy shit.
And players are going to be the minority of characters in the game. I think, I keep going back to it, but I think that NPCs are going to be a huge factor. I've said numerous times, my biggest fear as a mayor is having a settlement that I never even see a real player. And, we had Snipe Hunter in chat saying, yep, there will be settlements like that. There will be settlements that, real players just never visit.
Which you would hope. You would hope these newer non-core groups would go to, right? That, hey, we got this area that's just NPCs. Instead of trying to PvP with this group, we'll just come over here. But that's not going to happen. I mean, people will inevitably want to play around other people.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen. The person spent all that time and effort getting exactly the place they wanted. Nobody ever goes there.
I think the chances of everyone getting their dream coming, the chances of basically everyone's dream coming to reality is probably very small for everyone, even the kings and queens.
Well, the kings know that. The kings are they just want to start off on the foot that they want to start off on. I think that as we move down, there may be some people that are imagining it very differently, but there might be counties that nobody visits, depending on.
Well, there has to be. We don't have time to get there.
So yeah, you can't travel. Most players will never leave their kingdom. We hear people talking about like these large PvP groups and the effect that they're going to have. So what? They go take over a town, and then they have to figure out how they're going to get to the next town. Like, the world is immense. I don't know how that makes a difference. Like, you made a difference in a little area, so you killed some players. All right, they're going to spark somewhere else. If you guys want to be this roaming horde that kills NPCs and moves town to town, people will migrate out of your way. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of that plays out. But the size and the size and scale of the world and the total number of NPC inhabitants that, as a player, you don't necessarily outclass, right? is no matter what your role in domain and settlement selection is, now you'll have some benefits, and as you go in, NPCs might recognize you, but you're still sparking into their world.
Well, and I guess part of what I'm wondering is your target still going to be there once you travel there? And is it going to be in a condition that you want to do anything with it? I mean, it could be so run down by the time that you get there, it's going to be too much of a pain in the butt to try and do anything with it.
And again, I think about the idea that if you're a large attacking force that's going from one region to another, it isn't just going to be, a happy little stroll. People will see you, things will get reported, forces will be amassed, and pretty soon there's going to be a battle in an area where you've got a disadvantage because you have a longer supply line to maintain than they do. So I feel like that's one of the other things, to go, deep into a zone and take over a place is not just something you're going to walk into. It's going to be a long battle to build up to even that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about walking to the next town with what we know about this game. I'm concerned about walking to the next town, much less mobilizing an army to the next town.
Well, I when I think about towns as well, is exactly how densely grouped and how frequent are they? Is it going to be something where, yes, it's a large world, and yes, it's a bit of distance for each area, but in reality, the edge of one town to the edge of the next town is not really that terrible. You can kind of see it on the horizon, or the signs will give you an indication you got a quarter day's travel this direction. You're pretty much there. That's I feel like. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing I keep forgetting. We always forget about the fact that Meow characters, MMO characters in online games are just a specimen of physical fitness. They can jog, they can maintain a pretty decent pace just constantly. Like, it's no big deal. And so that's
not in this Meow.
Well, even though it's something that they talk about, there being the various limits, I think in that whole finding the fun and iterating on it, there's definitely going to be a limit on how much they want to prevent people from being able to move at a decent pace to be able to get around.
I won't have to change my clothes 4 times in a day.
I don't know.
Climate changes.
I mean, I really hope it's not that. I really, really, really hope it's not that. I mean...
one of the things Caspian wrote in Discord today was to giving people the option to spark in locations that allow them to have an easier or more difficult survival portion of their play. Some of the things we know are, if you're in a settlement with a well, you don't have to make sure that you drink every few minutes. You kind of auto drink, If you have a food bag, you don't have to stop and sit down and cook a fire and, spend, I spent 3 hours today just cooking food for my family, and out of waking time, that's a significant portion, right? You're not going to have to do stuff like that, but you're going to get exhausted. You're going to overheat. When you start to travel, that's when everything kicks in. When you're outside of the well radius, when you leave your home settlement or your home where your little farmstead or wherever that you have a well, you're embarking on a journey, and it's not and in some regions it might be like, when I lived in England, take a footpath to the next village and, have lunch at the pub there, and then, walk the couple miles on the footpath back. Maybe that's, in some regions that's fine, but in other regions, you might not want to do that without a group. You might not want to just wander on your own. We don't have a lot of those details yet, other than we know that they want it to be varying, that there will be some places you can go for a nice stroll, and there will be other places that you don't go outside.
Mhm.
There are parts of the United States where, like, if you get lost on a hike, you will likely die. You know,
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah.
and
Any true
not-
wilderness, that's the
Yeah.
case.
Snacks for me, more snacks for me, says the bear.
This is where I don't like the idea personally of blending real life and fantasy life. But anyways,
You're the huge EverQuest fan, where you like open up a book and stare at it and get killed in the meantime.
well, I didn't know any
You know?
better then. That doesn't exist now.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
there wasn't an alternative then.
Yeah.
Right.
Which actually, well, we're out of time. We can't really go into this whole PC Gamer, our MMO's dead article that came out. But,
Oh, okay.
anyways, we actually are out of time. So
Yes.
we will be back. Go ahead.
Before we go, once we do have domain and settlement selection up, we do have some interesting plans. We're not fully finalized, but we got some really nice giveaways that we're going to be able to do. Starting out, I have 4 600 EP gifts. That's not a little bit of exposition points for people that are looking for that. Excellent for Bloodline package for sure. And hopefully we'll be able to get some people in, sharing the excitement of the whole process.
You might want to explain that a little bit more. What would they be getting the rewards for?
Yeah,
the
we
giveaways?
probably just viewership random giveaways or something, or
Okay.
we might do a glean. We haven't decided all of that yet, but we have, we are giving back a little bit during this time.
So in approximately 3 to 4 months, we will be giving away some things. All right.
Theoretically, one day in the future.
Theoretically, that sounds even worse. At least the other one had a defined time period. Yeah, we actually do have some ideas. So hopefully we'll actually get some things moving in the next week or two where we can start talking more about it. So as per where we're at now with DSS, if there is nothing new about it next week, we'll be back with our Ashes show. However, if we do start to move into DSS, we'll probably start focusing more on that currently through that process. So that being said, everyone have a good weekend.
Yeah.
We will be back in a week.
See you
Thank you.
later. Have a good one.